Send in your pictures, though, using the Mississippi Live Weather app. We'll get those up and going as those kind of come in over the next a little bit here. We appreciate so many of you that do share your photos with us in this case. It does look like I have the shot of the Vernon hail here. This was 9:39 when this was sent in, so within the last minute. So this is what that hail looks like there in Vernon, Alabama right now. Quite a bit. I mean, that's a fairly large quantity of hail, hitting the ground on that there in Vernon. So appreciate that picture coming in using the Mississippi Live Weather app. If you put it next to something else there, certainly helps out with that as well. Give me 2 seconds here to kind of answer this. Hey, we're on live right now. If there's a question I can answer for everyone. Okay, we'll try to take a look at that here in a minute. All right? Okay, bye. So primarily it looks like hail reports again coming in at this time, which is not shocking. That's kind of what the atmosphere has been pretty good at so far today. And that last picture, appreciate that coming in from Tina from Vernon, Alabama. Some of the hail there. Do have a quarter-size hail report. Hold on. So I got quarter-size hail in Hamilton. Almost quarter size, so that's a little bit delayed. I'm going to make sure Weather Service Memphis has that. I'll see if they'll let me just drag that over into that chat, and it might not. Now I'm going to actually have to download that. Give me a moment here. Save image. That's not the folder I want that. I want that in just kind of throwaway folder. There we go, save. See if that'll let me drop that in here. Okay, back on to where we're at now here. This one still, these are moving a little faster than last night's storms are. So we show that biggest hail now just south of Highway 18 there in Lamar County, Alabama, under that severe thunderstorm warning until 11 a.m. Kind of moving in the direction of Coven. This will move toward Fayette. I'm going to double check the speed on this, make sure we've got a good forward motion on this. We'll do this a 15-minute loop there, and then we will extrapolate that out. We'll do the 15 times 4 rule, right? So that's moving about 40 miles per hour based on that. So let's get you a time there into Fayette. Say about 40 miles an hour. There we go. So that shows Fayette. We're looking at about 10:55 for you. Again, our severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 11 a.m. So it means that time's out pretty close to the end of that there, but somewhere around 10:55 arriving in Fayette. Of course, right now, Renfro Valley, we're looking at that for you at 10:49. Current time is at 10:43 there. 10:50 Coven, Cedar Hill. We're looking about 10:51, Old Town by 10:54, 10:55 there. Again, Fayette as it works its way east, probably still producing some isolated hail with that as well. But P to dime size hail has been the primary reports that we have seen to this point there. And you can see just scan to scan, that moved from this last scan to now about 3 miles. So that tells you it's moving pretty quickly there toward Fayette. And maybe I was underdoing the speed just a little bit. Checking the latest on that hail swath. I'm looking from too far away. We're looking all the way from Memphis on that one there. Let's bring it back to Monroe County. Clearly, this is kind of curved more southward. And so that largest hail might be on a trajectory where it takes a little south of Fayette, more toward Belk, Gumlin there. That could be the path that tries to continue taking. Let's check out some of the rest of the reports and the potential that we have out there. Our kind of peak severe weather threat showing us there. Then you had the batch that moved through Ackerman a minute ago. Another batch up here closer and just east of Smithville with that kind of moving toward the east there. Let's go ahead and check our camera up in Smithville. Might have to flip this around a little bit, see if we can look back into that hail core again. Send your pictures in using the Mississippi Live Weather app, probably the easiest way to interface with us. And you can pick up that app if you have not picked it up using, again, the 2 QR codes that you see there on the screen, or find us on your smart television. Just search for Mississippi Live on there. Here's another shot, Ashley in Vernon, of what is just about quarter-size hail. We'll click save on that one. We'll send that to Weather Service there as well. I'll go ahead and replace that. We'll go to Birmingham. Give me a moment to drag that over. Okay, sent that along the National Weather Service there in the Birmingham area. Appreciate you guys for sending in your pictures. I'll show you the picture that just came in a second ago, and this coming in from Ashley there, mentioned a moment ago. And we're going to check some other pictures here in just a second. So Ashley sending us this shot here of some of that hail, doing a great job, again, putting that next to a coin there. So just a little bit smaller than quarter-size hail out of that at this time. Again, looking back into some of that heavy rainfall, we were looking out of our camera there in Smithville a moment ago for everyone at home. As we kind of reset things here for a moment, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. We are a 24/7 streaming service based out of the Tupelo, Mississippi area. We're going to talk a lot more about the later today part here a little bit later on, but we do have some hail that we're addressing at this point in time, as you can see, sent in using the Mississippi Live Weather app, and that has prompted a severe thunderstorm warning where some of the strongest hail, most likely hail, is out there in Lamar County, Alabama. I'm look up here in northern this would be northern Monroe County, just kind of east of Smithville, near Riggins, north of Splunge, moving toward Detroit. That has had some hail with it on our True Shield hail swath, and more of that in the last few minutes coming into the probable category. One issue we do have scanning storms. We have issues with the radar when you're too far away. We also have issues when you're too close. And so we are really close to the radar there in Monroe County. So that means that, we don't necessarily even assess the whole thunderstorm when we get in here this close to it. But nonetheless, we'll just kind of cut into this, kind of take a look here. And there's that hail core aloft, and pretty dense. So there's still some hail that it's holding up there at this point in time, but eventually it'll start dropping. So Detroit, heads up, this is going to be some hail moving in there for you in the next little bit. That's still kind of in the generation on its large hail. So wouldn't it all be shocked if this strengthened a bit more, if you got around 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch size hail when that moves into Detroit. So it's going to move right over top of you in the next few minutes. Let's get a storm track on that. Again, assuming about 40 miles per hour, which is the speed these have been moving. I'm going to keep it a little bit east to south. And so there we show Detroit at 10:50, Henson Springs at 10:59, 11:08, Pikeville, Stinson, 11:12, Guin there at about 11:13, and Guin at 11:17. This is some potential here for large hail. Still assessing whether or not it will cross over to that 1 inch hail potential out of this, but that's one of the stronger returns we've seen in about the last hour and a half or so. As we look down south, as you can see, they've gone ahead and they've canceled out Lamar County from the severe thunderstorm warning there, because the hail portion pretty much directly over top of the Coven community. I'm going to pull off the storm track you see there. And again, the south side of Fayette, where this is kind of tracking there along Alabama Highway 96, going to move right there, kind of just south of Fayette, Alabama. Our True Shield Hill swath on this showing that we obviously have had some decent sized hail. Instantaneous hail, it shows some of that there a little closer to Renfro Valley, but the most substantial hail swath has been here just kind of on the south side there. So this has been the track of the hail so far and to this point. Looking at, wind, a little bit of rotation on this, but any of the rotation has largely been, trying to produce hail. This is not going to be a tornado-producing thunderstorm. This is producing some large hail as it kind of moves there toward Fayette. So let's get you an updated time there for Fayette. Again, I expect the strongest portion of this probably is a little bit south of you. Let's clear that off. I need to start it a little in advance because this is moving a fairly swift pace. So if this were to make it to Fayette, again, we're going 40 miles per hour. It's within really the next minute or two. It shows about 3 minutes there. I'm going to change the angle. I think the angle probably keeps the largest hail just a little bit south of you. So notice I'm going to change the angle on this to kind of represent that. We'll keep Fayette in the track, but heading more toward a Gumball there, honestly, as it's over top of Coven at this instant here. Appreciate everybody for supporting us here on Mississippi Live and all of our sponsors. If you have the opportunity to support some of the sponsors, when you make a choice with how you spend their dollars, they have a choice on how they spend theirs as well. And they have chosen to step out in faith and sponsor us here on Mississippi Live to hopefully, support their businesses, but also, I'm sure in some cases, try to develop them even more. And so we're just thankful that they have seen this as a worthwhile opportunity to both advertise and support a community service. So support them if you'd be willing to do that. Certainly it makes a difference, and let them know that you saw them. At the very least, let them know that you saw them here on Mississippi Live. Current time is 10:50, watching some thunderstorms that had produced some hail reports there coming from down in the Ackerman area. And that's more sporadic. And compare this for a moment here when we're looking at that. All the white dots, by the way, those are lightning strikes where we've had about 1,800 over the last 30 minutes or so. Clearly, you can see that one that prompted the severe thunderstorm warning there we were tracking a moment ago. That has been the most substantial hail that we've had out of this grouping here so far. I'm going to check and see what other kind of pictures you guys have sent in. We got somebody who's been doing some things. Let me see the name here from Vernon, Alabama. Sarah Cox sending in this picture of some of the hail that they have had out there in Vernon. That's where, again, a lot of our reports have come in here. And God bless, whatever he has been working on there. He has had a much more active day than I have this morning, but I appreciate him taking a moment to send in the picture. And you can obviously also see there in the background some of the hailstones just kind of laying there on the ground back behind. A few other pictures, again, sent in. Not all of them have been as big. This one coming in from part of the Vernon area, and that's, pea size. So it shows you how kind of isolated some of these hail reports have been. A shot of some dime-sized hail. Patricia sitting in this shot. I'm going to double-check the location on this. This is also kind of on the southwest side of Vernon. We can see kind of the clustering of where our hail reports are. So in Vernon itself, we've had some of those. They have been, those two were a little bit smaller. Some of the large hail, I think, might have been, check this part here. Yeah, where we had that hail just on kind of the south west side of town, a little bit larger. So it really kind of depended on where you were on where the hail was a little bit larger. Out here closer to Aberdeen, this is that shot we had earlier of the quarter-size hail, kind of north of Hamilton there. And a couple of shots here closer to Lackey Road of hail sent in about 10:17. So this has been a little while ago. This is moving through somewhere around probably dime-size hail, judging by that. Of course, if you put your hand next to it, send in those shots. Certainly that helps us out as well there. Bring it back into Mama Justice Doppler radar as we change it back over to the regular mode on here. Heavy rainfall. This was pretty well advertised on our projections, showing these showers and thunderstorms that we have had and continued to reform. A new severe thunderstorm warning being placed out here for Detroit locations up here. National Weather Service Memphis choosing not to issue on this, but Birmingham has gone with severe thunderstorm warning until 11:30 for northern Lamar, parts of Marion County. Large hail is the reason why. And you saw a moment ago when we looked at this 3D. We'll look at it again 3D and kind of check and assess that hail threat. Yeah, there's definitely some hail up there. We're going to use just what we call the vertical slice method to just slice, and we'll get kind of the whole thing all at once. And looking up there, we show, yeah, some of that largest hail. Yeah, that's severe hail. So we don't get to see the top of the storm, but I can still see that kind of big black return that you see there. That is some hail up to probably at least quarter size, but it's up there around 25,000 feet. When we get a return like that, 20,000 feet, that almost always is severe hail. So that's probably what this is producing there as it moves through the northern part of Lamar and Marion County. That's certainly been an area where this has strengthened a little bit more. Checking our chat with the National Weather Service there. We do have a new, what we call mesoscale discussion that has been placed out. So I'm going to take a moment here to kind of read through that. We will, I guess, look through that together at the same time. Let me see. After I get you a storm track on the biggest hail here, we're going to take a moment. We're going to do that. I think that's beneficial for all parties, myself included, to make sure that we're in kind of an agreement with what everybody else is kind of looking at with what's possible here. So a storm track for that biggest hail here, going about 40 miles per hour. So moving there toward Henson Springs. You could see it at 10:59. Pikeville about 11:08. Stinson 11:12. 11:16 there. Pea Ridge. Yampertown at 11:17. And Poltite about 11:22. Hail, it could be in excess of quarter size with this. And to answer how large that hail is, probably the easiest way to do that is using the Mississippi Live app. I'm gonna pop this kind of up here for a moment so that you can see that. So hold on, I'll have to pop that back up here in a second. Once again, appreciate Room to Room, one of our big sponsors here on Mississippi Live Weather, for sponsoring our Room to Room Weather Center that we again showcase from time to time. Obviously, almost every day we have that on there. But pick up the app, send in your pictures if you have something to share with us. We have a direct pipeline to get that right to the National Weather Service around the area. So encourage you to again share your pictures when they come in with. Okay, I'm going to look at this what we call mesoscale discussion, and I'll pop it up to where you can kind of see that as well. So here is the kind of grody map that we have here. That's not probably the best way to describe it, but anyway, showing the zone where convective trims are being monitoring for a weather watch. At this point, watch probability 40% because of the sporadic nature of this, but we have this boundary here. We talked a lot about this yesterday as well, but it'll kind of be the focal point where storms will be trying to pop up over the next few hours here, and certainly are doing it right now as well. So let's kind of look through what their thought process is on this. Again, these are the people that put out the severe weather watches. I'll step to this side and I'll see if I can read it off the screen at the same time you're looking as well. So potential for damaging winds and hail is expected to increase through this afternoon. Weather watch, severe thunderstorm watch, or tornado watch possible with that. They persisted through much of the morning. Low level of moisture, instability kind of moving north with this, along a boundary extending from back toward Greenwood to the areas that we're tracking where these storms are right now. Upper level look at the atmosphere, we call it sounding, revealing the elevated mix layer has spread east into the lower Mississippi Valley, which is coupled with the estimate allowing us to have fuel levels at about 2,000, 2,500, which is pretty good for us, especially for this time of day. So a lot of different scenarios with different details. As we talk about, the models we've looked at have been garbage, have not done a great job the last couple of days. Suggesting we could have, intensification into some complexes of storms eventually. That's where, again, that more significant damaging wind threat could come in with this. So a gradual overall increase in storm coverage over the next few hours here. And so supercells, rotating storms, possibility, especially near this boundary there. Tornado threat, somewhat conditional, likely to be tied to any storms that can interact and get basically on the boundary itself. So long, everything to say, watch might be necessary. Watches come out to say, hey, bad weather could happen. And so they're still in the possible category, and whether or not they issue one of those, it'll still be a little while before that is the case. So this is probably our most impactful storm, large hail potential with this. The main reason why a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued, our hail swath here, as we look at that kind of the hail track on our True Shield Roofing hail track. Notice that's taken a slightly different direction if you look at that. So let's go ahead and clear that off. Let's make sure we're in agreement on where that is there with that hail track, where there's possibly been some hail there on the north side. I would put our hail, it is moving a little bit north of east, but I don't think it makes it to Hamilton. I still think I kind of like our track that we had there a moment ago. So I think I'm gonna keep that one. I'm going to make one adjustment here on our storm track to kind of widen the beginning width of this just a little bit more. I'm going to go 4 miles there and our fan out at 10 degrees. Let's try that. Let's see if I like that a little better. Okay, so about 40 miles per hour, about this direction here. That's a little better for this. Maybe a little wide if we were doing a tornado, but for hail, I think that's pretty good. So there's, again, some updated times, some large hail. Let's fix it. We got an update on the position. Let's make sure we've got the absolute latest. So try that again. There we go. So again, the south side of Hamilton, where this is most likely to cause some large hail potential with that. Some times there, as you can see, Brilliant. We're looking for you at about 11:24. Did not have you, I think, on our previous chat. Gold Mine there at about 11:25. Rock City at 11:29. But the short term, Fulton Bridge, 11:05, within about the next 5 minutes or so. Current time is now coming up on 11 a.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. We're a 24/7 streaming service based out of the Tupelo, Mississippi area, where we talk about weather. We have 24/7 Weather Channel. Many of you are watching us on that Weather Channel at this point in time as this storm moves toward the east here. Speed on this storm about 40 miles per hour. Looking at overall where things kind of stand at this point, this is our only severe thunderstorm warning there, though we are watching some other thunderstorms that have potentially produced some hail. You'll notice that the hail tracks, that one that moved through Fayette County was the most substantial one. This is kind of the second most. These are more sporadic down here, Oktibbeha, Lowndes, back toward Noxubee, Winston, and Choctaw counties, but still some that we'll have to kind of pay attention to. Our cameras with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, again, showing a lot of the heavy rainfall. I'm going to pull up the Amory camera. We're going to have to look from a little ways away to see if we can get a shot in toward them. To pull up that camera with North Mississippi Storm Chasers there in the Amory area, and we'll get that kind of pointed the right direction here for a moment. Looking right back there, and unfortunately I think we'll look right through the tower, which is what unfortunately happens with some of these east-facing cameras. We're trying to look east toward that there. Just looking right through the tower, so don't have a good shot up there and at that. Unfortunately, I'll pan that a little bit up. So again, just looking like dark clouds there as that storm has moved to the east of the Amory area. I'll swing that one back around toward the west, so we have that ready for when we have stuff coming a little bit later on. We'll go down to up to Smithville. I think Smithville's also probably going to be looking through the camera there as well, or through the tower. Let's double check that. And again, you can join the conversation with us here on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, all places where you can post your comments, concerns. I don't spend a lot of time there, but there we are. Just had nickel-size hail in Detroit. If you have a picture you can share with us, please be willing to do so using the Mississippi Live Weather app and send those pictures in. Largest hailstone, if it's in excess of 1 inch. If the largest on today is in excess of 1 inch, True Shield Roofing gives a $100 gift card to that. You got to send it in using the app, or else it doesn't count, for lack of a better way to put it. Let me share that with the Weather Service. Okay, nickel-size hail there in Detroit via viewer. Just hailed in Amory and Hatley. Appreciate y'all in Pinedale there. Lightning raining hard in West Point earlier is cleared out now. Thankfully, that has moved kind of out of some of those spots. Our more robust conversation looks like going on Facebook right now at this point, a place where you can share your pictures as well with us. Let's actually try to move this camera now in the Smithville camera. We're going to be looking back through a rain shower that's pretty close. Boy, I don't know why that decided to go down before it moved, but it might have been zoomed in too much. That might be the reason why. Yeah. And we're on the water tower there, so we're kind of looking back through the water tower, so not going to have a great viewpoint on that. Oops. There's a positioning on where it put the little moving device here. So, man, don't let Matt have control of the camera today, apparently. So we'll swing that one back around toward the west, so it's ready for the next batch of thunderstorms that kind of moves through there, as well as we look back and toward the west and northwest a little later on. Bring it back in here to Mama Justice Doppler radar and closer inspection. Again, our severe thunderstorm warning continues until 11:30 out here for northern Lamar and Marion County, Alabama. You can see some of the times there on your screen. And that's crossing I-22 pretty much as we speak with some of the large hail. Where you see the purples on here kind of breaking down what the threat is, that's where it's probable that we're seeing the severe hail. Looking a couple different ways in which we can kind of assess things here. fairly intense, obviously, and we'll look three-dimensionally on this, which will then allow us to kind of see how high up that hail core is. See, I don't know that I agree with that exact positioning where our true shield roofing hail threat was. If I look at this storm from a weird way, I'm looking from the east, I'm kind of slicing in to see where the most intense parts are. Let's clear that off. There's kind of an overhang going on here. I think that's what it's seeing where it's showing it over Fulton Bridge there, is kind of that overhang of large hail that's going to eventually try to fall there for spots closer to that. So that's kind of what I think it's seeing. It's seeing all this large hail aloft there that may not be making it to the surface yet. But that's, I mean, I would say 1.5 inch size hail remains on the table as a possibility on this, especially if it's throwing it up as high as it could be for some of the largest there. Let's cut through that. Yeah, look at that. I've got almost 65 dBz returns there. Let me get it to the right spot. I keep going past it. There we go. Okay. So where you see that black return there, that is enough that I have that up 30,000 feet. This is probably 1.5 inch to 1.75 inch size hail. It's not impossible that I have some golf ball size hail with this up there that could end up falling below this. So I'm going to show you where that is on the slice. You can kind of seen that there in 2D. Let's look at that. So that is the part there that's right over top where it's showing that over Fulton Bridge. So that is not showing up on the lowest scans. It's still holding that aloft there. You wouldn't have looked at this and said, hey, there's super large hail with that, right? But when you look at it aloft, that is some of that hail that eventually is going to be falling down. Give me 2 seconds here to do something real quick. Okay, sorry about that. Had to get a little bit of water. You know how that goes from time to time. So lightning certainly up on this storm as well. So I would say hail that could be approaching golf ball size out of this based on what we're looking at here and the height of this. So I'd be expecting some large hail out of this when that eventually starts to fall in the next few minutes here. I bet our True Shield hail swath is yeah, getting more intense. Some of the similar spots there we're looking at just a moment ago. I'm looking here. The lights in Grenada flickered a couple minutes ago at that person's work. Let's kind of talk a little bit of an overview here in a moment. I'm going to get some of that hail to fall on this. I want to dig into some of the forecast elements of what we're talking about for the rest of the day. The problem is obviously we have a fairly significant hail producing thunderstorm right now. But you know, for folks asking, are there specific locations clear for the rest of the day? The answer is no. We're going to have more severe weather. Our risk is definitely there, and we're expecting storms in one or more complexes to form out here into Oklahoma and Arkansas and move in. We'll have additional thunderstorms popping up over top of us, but that will be the kind of the focal point for thunderstorms. We'll dig a lot more into this here in a minute, but I wanted to at least give you the overview on the tornado threat, which could potentially include some strong tornadoes, and then the severe and damaging wind and hail. You see both those threats there, but the wind threat has a potential where we could see in this blue area destructive 75+ mile per hour winds potentially out of this. So there's a bunch of different layers on the way that this could end up playing out today. The most active weather will probably come from locations back toward the west and move in. And we do have plenty of lightning and heavy rainfall and all those sorts of things, and at least some hail with these other thunderstorms, just the largest hails with that one up in Lamar and Marion County at this time. If I check again our hail look here, the kind of the quick look at the hail, I have some lighter purples down here for some of these that have moved over the last hour here north of Bethedin there and the Winston community. Maybe some hail with that. If you have pictures to send us, please do that. Obviously, that will help me have a better idea of what you are seeing. Share your comments there next to me as well. But the biggest hail right now is up here in Marion County, Alabama. With that storm there that's nearing, again, the south side there of Hamilton. We'll bring it back on the current scan, and we're going to go back to 3D on this, which has done an excellent job of showing, is that hail still up there? Has it started to kind of fall out? As I look at the kind of the biggest hail, you can see that's kind of covering up the Fulton Bridge area there. It's still up there in the storm. In saying that, let's make sure we're on the latest scan here with this, because you can see it evolving. I think some of that big hail might be falling out of it right now. Let's see. Because I think we have 2 scans there. Yes, both showing up at once. The big hail's about to start falling out of this. It's getting close to the ground there. So this is, I think this is from the last scan, and this will update as the radar scanning in bottom here. It's kind of up higher and higher and higher. And as those bottom scans are hitting, a lot of these returns are falling out of this. So this is about to be some pretty good size hail there, about to hit I-22, probably a couple miles there south of Hamilton. It's still up there in the storm too, so it's that's a pretty intense return. Because if I cut that into the most intense parts, 62 dBZs. By the way, if you ever see this show up, that is either blinding rainfall mixed with hail, or this is some big hail. And that's probably what this is here. This is some big hail that's falling down out of this to the west of Pea Ridge, west of Pierce's Mill, south of Hamilton, north of Pikeville. This is I-22 in Marion County, Alabama. For our friends in Lamar County, the hail risk is all just past you at this point and time. Let's go 2D back on this. So that's right where this is there. Appreciate that, Siri. Siri wanted us to know that it's 11:11 a.m. And as it's 11:11 a.m., thank you again so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live as we are looking at a report coming in from the National Weather Service. And you can see Jay Bishop, WX, next to me there on YouTube. He is one of the North Mississippi storm chasers and reports that they have gotten in as well of about quarter-size hail on exit 16 there on I-22 within the last few minutes. Some potential, again, that this is probably not tapped into its largest hail that it will produce. I'm going to check our gallery here from what you guys have sent in. This shot coming in from Detroit, 11:08, so a few minutes ago. A shot here of some of the hail from Detroit, and appreciate this shot shared using the Mississippi Live Weather app. You can share your pictures using the app as well. It's one of the layers that we often reference that you should have, layers of protection when we start talking about severe weather coverage. Weather Call lets you know if you're in the danger zone. You can sign up for that at msliveweather.com/weathercall. Code Red, Mississippi Live Weather app, obviously something that we recommend, and you can download the app with these 2 QR codes that you see right there. Like, subscribe, follow. We're on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV. There might be an issue at some point that comes up with Fire TV where you have to re-download. We're still trying to figure that out here. But for the time being, and certainly through this severe weather event, we're not going to make any changes with that. You can watch us on Fire TV. Just be aware at some point you might have to end up re-downloading that as we go forward there. But some pictures, again, we've had the pictures there. This picture from Vernon a little bit ago, this shot here from near Vernon, as well as this one I think was near the Hamilton area, northeast of Hamilton. So we have had some decent size hail over the last couple of hours here, and still probably seeing up some pretty large hail that's falling out here kind of on the southeast side of Hamilton. You can see just, it looks like kind of honestly, it kind of looks like a tornado if you were to just, glance at the screen and see this. Let's be clear, that's not what this is. This is not a tornado. This is large hail stacked up in the thunderstorm. You can see it's kind of angled there, partially because the storm is moving, and every time it comes around, the storm's moved a little bit, and it's moved a little bit. So you end up getting kind of an angled look to it to a certain extent aloft because of this, but this is that hail that is falling there on the east side, southeast side of Hamilton right now. And if we slice this in and see just how high it is, yeah, I mean, I have almost 30,000 feet, the peak on that hail height there. This gray is all large hail that has up in there. So that's what's prompted this severe thunderstorm warning for hailstones, likely in excess of quarter size, possibly in excess of 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches in size, probably where our hail is landing on this here in Marion County, Alabama. We're going to check some of the other storms that we have out there as well, just to kind of give you some comparison. Obviously, our name is Mississippi Live Weather, and we do cover Lamar County, Alabama, Marion County, Franklin, and Pickens County, as well as Fayette County, Alabama. So I want you to compare what we have out of that storm and some of those bright returns we've seen to what we're seeing in other spots. And notice how you can kind of see this sort of fuzzy. If I went 3D, there's where that hail is, right? So let's look at every other one of these storms that we have out here. And there's only really one down here close to Louisville that has anything, and it's not as intense as what we had up there, but this one probably does have some hail, and it does look like the latest scan that just came in a second ago perhaps has a little bit more. So I expect that this one is one that could be producing maybe some at least dime to nickel-sized hail near the Bethedin community. That would be kind of northeast of Louisville. Let's put this on a 1-hour loop. And so that's kind of still in the development phase. Let's watch that again. I'm going to clear off our severe thunderstorm warning up there from Marion Lamar so we don't confuse things for a moment. I'd say that's heading more eastward toward Lynn Creek. I'm going to see if I'm going to make this go a little slower to double check, make sure I've got the exact right angle on this as we're getting in all the data. So there's the one we've kind of had consistently. That's that same storm there that's consistently been producing some of the hail there. They're going to move toward maybe Brooksville. Let's go and track that at about 40. It's pretty consistently been where we've been going with this. And so we show Brooksville by about 11:37, Deerbrook 11:45, and 11:25 there in Lynn Creek. This is, while it might have some broad rotation on it, this is going to be hail more than it would be any sort of rotation or anything like that. And honestly, as you can see, the hail thread, a little touch and go, it might just be extremely heavy rainfall. It's kind of in a zone where we expect additional development, and that will then, increase the potential for active and severe weather at some point later as we go toward the afternoon. But here's probably our inch and a half size hail that's falling out of this here east of Fulton Bridge. Oops, let's clear that off. Give me a moment here to clear that. And we'll get a storm track. Again, keeping this kind of heading east, northeast here, about 40 miles per hour or so, right about there. So P Ridge, basically over top of you in the next few moments. On the north side there is where this is probably going to produce the largest hail. Piney Grove at 11:29. We're at Goldmine 11:30, 11:31 there, the White House community, Glen Mary 11:40, 11:44 there in German Crossing, and Lynn about 11:46. This is Doppler radar indicated large hail that you guys have been confirming by sending in pictures over the last little bit here of kind of what some of that hail has looked like. A shot here from Brittany in Detroit of the kind of all the hail that was just kind of all over the ground as it moved through that location there a little bit ago. So an example again in Detroit of kind of some of the large hail. Looks like a screenshot of the video there. But that is the storm that has prompted this severe thunderstorm warning. Again, this picture sent in using the Mississippi Live Weather app. So as we bring it back in here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, the biggest hail there now just basically on top of the P Ridge community. Within the next moment or two, kind of moving into there. And some of that probably trying to fall out. Some of the largest hail starting to fall out of that as well. Once this kind of moves out a little bit, we're still probably 15 minutes from really kind of getting into it there. That's when we will, kind of focus a little bit more on some of the forecast component with this as well. Let's look 3D back on this again. It's the thing I keep coming back to, as well as our True Shield hail swath that, I mean, clearly you can see how dark that hail swath got there as it's also seeing plenty of hail aloft and some more and more of that probably making it to the ground there in that. Very, very likely that we're dealing with damaging hail. We're not in the true likely category. I'll be honest, I don't know that I've seen this hit likely on the damaging hail. I might have our scale turned up so hot or so cold, I guess, better way to put it, that we never go to truly likely on the biggest hail because we've had some pretty good size hail to this point, and I bet we're going to have nearly golf ball size hail out of this potentially before we're all said and done. Current time is now 11:19. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. We're a 24/7 weather streaming service based out of North Mississippi here. You can join the conversation with us here. Again, a lot of folks want to know about later on today. We will touch on later on today. But for folks out here in mainly rural eastern Marion County, Alabama, we're kind of in the right now as far as severe weather potential is concerned, because we do have some large hail occurring out of this storm right now. You can see that hail showing up aloft here on a Mama Justice Doppler radar, kind of our 3D look with this. And as I kind of cut it into its most intense returns, I want to make sure we clear that off for a second. Most intense returns there, and kind of go 3D on it, right? Pretty much where that white line is coming over is where our biggest hail probably is, just south of Pierce's Mill, near the Pea Ridge community. That's some big hail there probably falling. It's certainly up here aloft. That's what this is, up in the cloud. It's all kind of a big hail. If I were to kind of add in, I'll see if I can add in some outer layers to kind of give you some idea on the overall structure of the storm, to let you know that there's kind of an overall storm here. We're just kind of cutting into the most intense returns with that. And so hopefully folks have moved their cars where they need to move them, done what they need to do to get inside. And you can, again, share your pictures with us on all the different social medias. But honestly, the only way I really get time to check during severe weather coverage is if you sending in using the Mississippi Live Weather app, because I can pull it right up on a browser here, pull up every picture as you're sending them in. We can pull up and take a look at where it's occurring on a map to get an idea of where people are having issues. So use the Mississippi Live Weather app. It's the easiest way to, again, share that. I do see someone there mentioning power outage situations, and I have seen that from time to time. Let's take a look here at the power outage numbers that we do have as of this point here in percentages. Not a ton of power outages. Does look like we have some there back in the Grenada area, with folks in Grenada County, about 5% of the county without power at this point. More limited percentages for a lot of other folks. But when we start looking at actual numbers for power outages there, about 600 there in Grenada County. Looks like we have some back west as well. So limited overall numbers of power outages today to this point, thankfully. Back over here, Mama Justice Doppler radar. We've been watching a few storms also. Again, this main cluster that we have back here, this is primarily just heavy rainfall. Looking at our peak severe weather threats, we have a couple spots there where it's not impossible. That one we were looking at closer to the Bethedon area a little bit ago, show estimation of maybe half-inch size hail at the largest on that storm. And that's one moving eventually toward Lynn Creek, Brooksville on the Y. I've decided to drop the S on that today. Brooksville, more toward you. We have a camera in Macon that perhaps we have kind of an angle on this. We'll get up our camera there in Macon for you to take a look at here. Appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our partners on this camera network across North Mississippi. Double checking our angle here on Macon. Make sure we're looking the right way too. Yep, we're looking basically the right way. May need to bring this to the right just the littlest bit. Actually, let's take this to the right a little bit. I know we're going to hit a tower here in a minute. Yep, of course, looking right into the tower. That's how that always goes, right? Bring it back to the left just a smidge. So that's looking back toward that storm. It does not, I don't see any features on this that are concerning. Just some dark clouds there. But we'll have a better idea, of course, as that storm kind of moves in. And if it kind of expands down that direction there. We've had some reports, other locations, Lowndes County, we had some reports of hail a little bit ago, though things look clearer than they did before, kind of looking over the school there in the Caledonia area. You can see some of the winds aloft kind of blowing some of these clouds sort of from left to right, but mainly kind of in this sort of northerly direction there in Caledonia. Caledonia coming in at 70 degrees for the current temperature at this time. Back out west, though, when we're looking toward Greenville, I want to go all the way west here for just a moment. You're one of those spots where things are kind of trying to recharge for a potential for active and severe weather later today. The clouds are still widespread. And once we get past this warning in Marion County, we're going to dig more into kind of an overall update on how things look and how things are expected to play out for severe weather over the next few hours and going throughout the remainder of today. So back here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, we're going to keep it on the kind of peak threats for a moment, do an overall assessment here, where for most locations it's just the green. The obvious exception is up here in Marion County, Alabama, where a new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for locations now east of the Marion County area, extending there into Winston County until 12:15. We will disengage from this once it moves into Winston County, technically kind of out of our primary coverage area here for our Mississippi Live weather. But Pierce's Mills, this is still showing peak potential 2-inch hail. I do want to see how that is compared with even a few minutes ago. And this shows you that big hail is falling out. Look at how large that area of estimated 3-inch size hail is. That's pretty large area, all things considered. A spot where it says over basically a 3-mile by 2-mile area. That's about as wide as one of these as we have seen with this event. I take it back, it was a little bit wider slightly earlier. So I have not got a ton of reports back out of this, even with the National Weather Service kind of looking back and forth with our chat with them to this point. So if you have a picture that you can share with us using the Mississippi Live Weather app, please do that so we can pass that along to the Weather Service there in Birmingham on some of the hail to get an idea on kind of how that's progressing. But it does look like some of the hail potential, again, continuing to diminish some, so it's probably dropping some of its bigger hailstones as we speak. Let's look 3D on it. Notice there's kind of a number of things that we hit as part of doing this coverage. One of them is kind of going back here 3D and seeing where the biggest hail is aloft. We still have a pretty good chunk of large hail aloft with this as well, even though not as much of that kind of showing up then close to the ground. This is probably in the process of falling now. And to give you some perspective on what we're talking about here, if we look 3D on this and just kind of cut into that big hail there, we still show some of that up around 20,000 feet. If we went back just a few minutes ago, a couple of scans here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, you'd note that it was at one point in the not so distant past up 30,000 feet, right? That is that process of it dropping out. So it's dropping the big hail now. It was holding it up. Now it's in the process of dropping there. So Piney Grove for you, that's one of the spots where this biggest, largest, and potentially most damaging hail is probably going to kind of be moving through there. It's back over here to our box that shows us kind of how this is progressing there. Oops, and I'm going to do the thing I didn't want to do. I didn't want to draw a new box, and I did. Okay, so let's go a little wider on that. So you don't let Matt have control of the computer. Every once in a while, I'll mess it up. Let's get back here to where I can draw a larger box. Give me just a moment. So kind of have that there. There we go. And that way I can be all-encompassing on all the other storms that we have in there. Okay, so current time is now 12:27. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. 11. Thank you. Somebody's got to be paying attention to me. It was 11:12 when I first read the number, and my brain grabbed a hold of the 12, apparently. It is 11:26. You're watching Mississippi Live weather and a severe thunderstorm warning here in Marion County, Alabama. Dropping out some big hail as we speak. So hopefully people have prepared accordingly, put their vehicles all the places they need to be, because that's all falling down right now just south of US 278 east of Hamilton, just west of Highway 129 there, Alabama Highway 129 in eastern Marion County, Alabama. Checking out the rest of the hail threat we have across the area. We have been watching this one batch down here closer to Louisville, northwest of Macon. This is obviously nowhere near as impressive as what we had up there to the north, going back to even just the regular rainfall mode, not showing up as much. And I do think a lot of whatever hail that had has probably fallen out of that. So probably past any sort of peak related to that. I'm going to check again on you guys' what you're talking about here in the chat on the side. A lot of folks wanting to know about, again, some but the severe threat later today, obviously top of mind for a lot of folks. I think we can probably, with that biggest hail falling out of that, take a moment here and start talking a little bit about some of that information. One of the things I've been waiting for behind the scenes is I've been waiting for the Storm Prediction Center to put out their midday update on their risk area, just to see. I always like and maybe it's just something I've always done since I was very early in this, waiting for them to see, their opinion on what they expect to do today for the severe weather risk. That should be coming out in the next few minutes. I've been kind of waiting to show you an updated version of this until that's what they had. But let's go a 4-hour loop here. I'm going to make this a longer timestamp. So they have not issued the new adjustment on that yet. But yesterday, so you can see over the last 24 hours where that risk area obviously focused to the north of us yesterday. You'd see back there into Texas some warnings indicating this is where kind of the storms are now forming. And this is the batch that eventually will move eastward and move into our area, bringing us increased risk for active and severe weather as we go through today. So while we wait on that, which apparently is going to take longer than I would like, let's go ahead and hack our way into, let's clear that out. Let's discard. You don't go to this, I pull things in, raw back and forth here. STRIKE. Let's look at Storm Finder. So Storm Finder is an exclusive product of Mississippi Live here. It allows us to kind of look at storm potential, lightning, a lot of other components all kind of go into this to make it to where we understand where the storm is explicitly, where it's saying, hey, there are absolutely going to be some storms producing lightning, and where the future radar kind of all on the same graphic here, layered on with storm chances, more of a probabilistic graphic. So this is Storm Finder, again, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. First thing I can say on strike on Storm Finder here is it does not have the thunderstorms out here in Oklahoma that exist at the moment, and high resolution modeling has struggled mightily with this pattern last couple of days. Now it does have them get going, but it's showing 2 p.m. there, and the reality of this situation is that on the wider shot there, I'm going to go back to kind of the U.S. radar to show this. I'm going to pull off storm reports for a moment. We already have some severe thunderstorms back out there into Oklahoma and Texas. So as we come back over here, and I hope, I wish I would have kept it on the wide shot. Hold on, I'm going to pull off the camera first layer on that, and that should allow it to stay wide. Give me a moment to try this one more time. See if I broke it appropriately. That's the wide shot there. And same shot. Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to show. Okay, so one thing that this does, there are these storms back here in Oklahoma that exist, right? And that's actually 2 hours ago. Let's bring it to current time. So these storms exist out here in southeast Oklahoma. They do not on Storm Finder and models, but so this is why Storm Finder is important. See how that's the brightest of the purple right there, where the storm chances are the highest? And the model itself has kind of left it off. That's how we can use this to analyze both probabilistic odds of something happening. At the same time, we say, hey, the model says it is happening, will happen, will be right at this exact location. So you can see how the probabilistic, the likelihood, the purple gets brighter and brighter for us into southern Arkansas, and then moving into our area as we head toward 3, 4, 5 o'clock this afternoon and early evening. On Storm Finder here, it is, I think, a little slow on its progression here, and it does not do, I think, a great job of showing a lot of thunderstorms directly over top of us. It's more aggressive on this stuff trying to move out of Tennessee. I think that is probably a little inaccurate on its positioning there, if I'm honest on this. So I'm gonna I think hinge toward our HRRR model. But clearly what this shows is that when thunderstorms arrive, they're going to be fairly intense. Now, if it's right here or right there, that is what we need to, or in the middle of those two, that is what we're going to work to discuss now. So let's look at another projection here. Is this the one I want? No, I don't think that's the one I want. Let me see if I can. So usually I'll pull this right out of my show. Yeah, let's do this actually. Let's look at fuel. I think that will do actually maybe more good for us than even looking at where we show the storms themselves. So notice how this shows the storms we have out there right now kind of eating into some of the fuel that we have available. But then also it shows some storms that start developing in this 2 to 3 o'clock time frame here. Clarksdale back toward Grenada, quickly strengthening and possibly trying to produce severe weather there. The reason the fuel goes away is because something's eating it up, right? If you leave a plate of brownies on the table, the reason the brownies go away is something ate it up. And so in this case, the fuel has eaten up the thunderstorms. The thunderstorms have eaten up the fuel there. And so that is somewhat worked over. That's an important distinction because as we mentioned a moment ago, the thunderstorms back out here into Texas exist, right? Let's come back to current time, where it does show some of those thunderstorms, but it's underdoing those to a certain extent. It does have those expanding eastward as probably a big complex of thunderstorms, so that by the time we get to, like, say, 6 o'clock here, let's stop it there at 6 for a moment. What I see, and this might be a little fast here at 5 o'clock versus what we're looking at because of some of the positioning on the storms, but somewhere out here in this gray where it's showing that the fuel is used up, we're going to have kind of a line of thunderstorms gobbling this up from Water Valley, Oxford, back to Hollandale is where this particular projection shows it, but it might be as far north as Holly Springs or Boonville. But we're going to have a line that comes through here, say 5, 6, 7 o'clock, kind of working its way from west to east and producing damaging wind gusts. The fact that you have some areas like this, see where it bends all the way back in? It's those kinks in the line where we have that rotation and possible tornado potential. So we have multiple areas here where we have these different kinks in the line. So that's why it's not just damaging wind that in some cases could potentially exceed 70 miles per hour, but also the potential that we could see tornadoes that try to spin up on some of those areas. Give me a moment here behind the scenes. I'm going to try to check. I'm going to force it to give me the newest outlook, even though for whatever reason, the Storm Prediction Center's webpage has been really slow the last couple of days. So I should be able to force it to give me the new outlook. And unfortunately, even that way, it's not given to me yet. Control-Shift-T. Let's add that. Give me just a moment. And I will check on some of your questions here in a moment as we kind of work through this. Again, for the spot, you see the sponsors on the screen there. If you're willing, support those folks like Northeast Mississippi Community College, the Oxford Lafayette Chamber of Commerce, some of our different partners we have across North Mississippi when it comes to both forecasting the weather and providing you this service. They support us each day of the year, and so that's obviously very helpful. I'm going to do a push alert here, let folks know that we're going to do kind of an overview on this, kind of give the whole overview in the forecast here in just a second. But I want to check to make sure our storm here is past producing its severe hail in Marion County. So we can kind of disengage from this one here. Again, if you have weather pictures to send us, use them using the Mississippi Live Weather app. Probably easiest way to do that. 3D look at this. Look at how this has collapsed. Completely fallen apart. So it's basically dropped all of its big hail. So the hail threat with this, and I'd say the severe weather threat with this storm that we've been tracking out here in Marion County, Alabama, we are now past that. This is probably not producing any more severe weather. If we go back, watch how much taller it was just a few minutes ago. Kind of go back to the west, see how it's taller and taller and taller back to the west here. So this is the collapse. As this collapse has happened, it's dropped all of its large hail, and now it's, in my mind, no longer severe. So for folks there in Marion County, if you're wanting to know east of Piney Grove there, why we're not talking about it near Natural Bridge, it's dropped all of its big hail. It's done with severe weather on this here. I see the James mentioning that the latest update has not hit the IM bots yet. Noticing that there as well. And National Weather Service looks like going ahead and canceling that warning there for Marion and I think Walker counties there. So allowing that to expire. Okay, so give me a moment. I'm going to go back on here on radar. And if you give me just a second, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to load in a regular show for me. Oh, what do I need? I need combo. I'm going to drop this in so that we can have a more reasonable and organized discussion here about our chances for active weather the rest of the day. So give me just a second while that's going to start loading in here. And then I'm going to do a push alert to let folks at home know live update on storm chances today. E and of. There we are. Okay. Click that. Click that. Send message. Okay, went ahead and sent that out to everyone there. So for those of you with the Mississippi Live Weather app, you'll see here in a brief second one of those alerts coming through about that. I just got mine on my watch there. So that tells you obviously it's pretty fast. And we'll give some folks a second or two here to kind of come on board as we talk about what we are expecting going through today. For those of you just now joining us or just now hitting us on the app or just now finding us online, as we'll reshare this on Facebook to let folks know that that we're going to do an update kind of on the overall forecast here. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Waupon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. Again, we're a 24/7 streaming service based out of the Tupelo, Mississippi area. Current time is 11:41 a.m. and we are going to kind of give you an overview of what we expect the remainder of this afternoon and the remainder of today, as we do expect that we'll continue to probably have some active and potentially some severe weather from time to time going through today. At this point, we do not have any official watches and warnings in place. Those are likely to come later on. Yesterday, we had what we called a capping inversion. You probably heard us say that a bunch of times here, but still at this time, we're monitoring that potential, that how that will end up playing out again for today. I think we're largely going to have to move in our strongest storms, and I do think our strongest storms could potentially produce wind gusts up in excess of 70 miles per hour. So there are a number of different concerns and factors that are going to layer into this. What I am waiting on behind the scenes here is typically at about 11:30, we get an update from the Storm Prediction Center, the ones that put out the watches, discussing a lot of different things, part of which is, kind of looking at how the overall large-scale severe weather threat is going to evolve. They have not put out that look at this point. And so they're running behind. They ran yesterday. Storms with Justice Doppler radar are all, and it looks like my small group has decided now is the time that that we're going to start talking about and mute it. My small group, but 10 while we're on the air. So hope everything's all good with them. Back to the west of us, here's our tornado watch. It is not for us, as you can see. I'm going to leave it on the latest scan here for a moment. Tornado watch out there for Arkansas until 7 p.m. The green area you see up north is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Missouri and Arkansas until 6 p.m. We have nothing for North Mississippi at this point, and that is because we are still in the wait-and-see phase. Storms have started going up back out here into Oklahoma and southern Missouri. Those thunderstorms there will progress eastward. Projections have been very straightforward that at some point these probably build upscale into one or more complexes of damaging wind that could produce wind gusts in excess of 70 and possibly tornadoes. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a long range. I'm going to have to, I think, switch the mode back here to be able to do it. Let's check and see if this will let me do it. So this will let me do the short range track, but I don't think it lets me do the track update on making it go a lot longer than that. It doesn't, so I'm going to have to, it's not going to be as pretty here in a second, but I'm going to go to a different version as it kind of flops back here. So give me just a moment to do this. Bring on our next rad. and do the long range track, just to get kind of a rough idea, because models have been so questionable at best, assuming that these are eventually the storms that produce the severe weather we're expecting. And I'm going to move them, let's say 60 miles per hour. The reason for that, they're not moving 60 miles per hour now. But if they end up being the kind that produce, let's see if I got to go farther than 300 miles. If these end up being the kind of storms that produce wind damage on a significant scale, they're probably going to pick up just an absolute ton of speed. So looking at this, how big do I got to get this before I get it all the way here, just to get some rough ideas? Okay, so looking at some rough ideas just for us, this shows them getting to the Memphis area close to about 320 or so. This would be Tupelo close to 5. That's assuming 60 miles per hour, and that might be a bit fast. So let's just, this shows you how much even 10 miles per hour makes a difference on this, right? I'm going to change that to 50 miles per hour, and that's 6 o'clock. That's an hour difference. So somewhere Memphis-ish area gives us an idea on the western edge. Unfortunately, I can't just choose actually I can. Give me a moment. So that goes Memphis at about 404. Let's do this. I think actually we can do this. I need to find Memphis and make that my first city. Here we are. Select as first city. Let's try this. Now let's shrink the size of this down to, say, 4. Okay, that's still a lot of stuff up there closer to the Memphis area. 5. There we go. That's a few more locations that we have down here. So Horn Lake, we're looking at about 416 for you. Olive Branch, about 430. Cleveland, about 440. Somewhere around Indianola, about 5 o'clock. Holly Springs, about 5 o'clock. It's going to make Holly Springs the first one there. Just get, some idea on where some of these could work out. Hold on here. I don't know why that always tries to jump ahead like that. There we go. Anyway, I'm going to make it just increase the size of cities. And so that gives, again, it'll be closer to 6 maybe or so before it makes it there toward around the Tupelo area. I show 616 for Burnsville School. For whatever reason, that's popping up there. But as you can see, it's a lot later today before some of these storms make it into our area. We do expect that will eventually probably form a big complex of thunderstorms. Now, there's a huge area in between here where we have nothing going on. Again, an example of kind of that capping inversion. One of the differences we have today versus yesterday, though, is we have had these storms this morning. Obviously, that's different. I'm going to go here and put this into kind of clear air mode on Mama Justice Doppler so I can see basically every return. What I'm looking for here is if there's kind of well-defined boundaries. I don't see a really good boundary there, but I mean, obviously we have boundaries that are out there that are kind of causing this. And if we have like a residual boundary where air is coming together, that's a point where we could have storms that, again, continue to break through. And that could be that missing component that kept us from having the storms yesterday. I don't see a well-defined outflow on the radar out of Jackson as well, but we do have some spots back there out toward west of Yazoo City where storms are going to kind of form. And projections do have storms kind of forming in this zone here over the next 3 hours that eventually could become stronger. Let's check satellite. Let's see if we can get a better shot of that on satellite. Yeah, that actually might be our better way to look at it. There's just a lot going on there, but looking here, you can still kind of see sort of a boundary. See how you have more of the gray, darker gray showing up down here, Yazoo City, Pickens there. Our boundary probably right about here-ish. Let's see if that kind of matches up with the temperatures. Yeah, you can see a little bit of a temperature contrast there, kind of rain cool there coming in from the north near, again, that boundary. So somewhere in here, Chula, Kosciuszko, Hollandale, Yazoo City is kind of where our boundary is. So this will be the point that kind of helps either thunderstorms to go or helps guide in the more significant threat. Because when we look here at the purples that represents the purple represents the fuel. One of the ways in which we show it, again, with dew point, measure of moisture based on the same scale of temperature. And there's some spots out here where that is fairly high. Going down there toward, again, we're looking at Rolling Fork here at our camera there. That dew point at 71. Similar value to what we have at our North Mississippi Storm Chasers camera up there in the Greenville area, 72, so a little bit higher. You come back to Pittsburgh, though, for example, and that dew point there is sitting at 70, so higher than it was yesterday at this time. And again, some clouds, but not a lot of precipitation out there in Pittsburgh. And one of our newest cameras there with North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Pontotoc, as I'm working my way back up to the north and east here, coming in 73 degrees with a dew point at around 70 there. And I bet a similar value, similar look up here in the Tupelo area as we're looking back toward the north and west as well. So we're cooler farther north. It's the combination of that moisture and heating that helps provide that fuel for thunderstorms there. And so kind of looking at some of these individual actual reporting stations, important, 72 over 70, 73 over 70 there in the Oxford area. And give me one more as we go down here to Macon, where we've kind of been more in the thunderstorms down there. Appreciate Phoenix Building Solutions, Mitchell Cunningham Bowling, all our sponsors of our different tower cams there. And they're sitting at 68, that dew point, a little more worked over there in the Macon area. So it's going to take some recovery time for that. You can't see next to me there on the radar. We do have still thunderstorms out there that we are tracking. I'm going to take a brief look at those before we kind of dig into everything else again. I appreciate y'all's patience as we try to kind of sort through a bunch of different things at once. Because obviously, if there are thunderstorms ongoing by my house, I want to know about them, and I completely get that. Checking our True Shield roofing hail swath. That hail looking a little more impressive, but this is looking from down in Jackson, so it does not have as clean a look as looking from Monroe County. You can see how that swath shrinks down a lot more when you look from Monroe County there. Still some hail there, probably south of Brooksville with this. But I think it's probably more quarter-inch hail, not quarter-size hail. I know that's about as clear as mud after saying that. So 0.25 inches as opposed to 1 full inch there in size. So we show that X Prairie about 1158, Prairie Point 1204, 1206 Ravine, Aubrey 1209, 1215 Pickensville. Okay, so now that we've kind of done the overview, have we please updated this SPC? Nope, still have not put out the latest update on that, unfortunately. Let me just double check. Why are they so late today? They were late yesterday as well. I'm gonna have to ask some folks some questions about that, because that's fairly unacceptable, all things considered. I just don't understand what's running them so late. So anyway, here's our tornado threat today. As of the most recent threat, this is it right here. My concern is on the wind. Not just the fact we'll see wind, but there's some potential there for destructive winds up in excess of 75 miles per hour. And I don't like throwing away around that word destructive. But the fact, again, vulnerability after the ice storm for trees and what that then means, but also the fact that this is really going to pick up a big full head of steam. That's going to then allow it to produce some of those wind gusts, 65, 70 miles per hour as this thunderstorm batches, as these storms move eastward. So again, here's kind of the broad shot here on Mama Justice Doppler. That front, what's helping to initiate the storms, and this will be the source zone for storms to try to move in. You're going to see a fast version here on our Futurecast, and then we're going to walk more slowly through it. So the fast version, you can see how we kind of have that boundary. It all lines up. A lot of individual thunderstorms, big complexes moving in, storms regenerating for quite a while. So as you can see on the kind of wide shot, where are the storms coming from? That's kind of the point of showing this right here and right now. The storms are going to come from these batches back out here into Arkansas. And while we will develop some here, these are the ones that we develop here that I have a lower confidence on these actually going, partially because of what we had yesterday. The difference, though, is we have a boundary in place that could help form those storms more effectively today. So now let's kind of walk through this hour by hour, looking at the latest version of our Futurecast here as well. First thing we'll note, it's probably a little far north on its positioning of some of these. So let's just go ahead and move those south, shall we? We're going to offset those to the south a little bit. That's probably maybe a little bit closer right there to where we have our batch of thunderstorms right now. Model immediately has, I think, some thunderstorms. Let's click OK on that. Ooh, I got to remember to not save this, so I got to revert this before we're done. But kind of looking back into this, it does do a pretty good job of having the heaviest of those storms back out there into Texas. So now let's walk forward through this hour by hour. So storms, it says more continuing to form over the next hour or two, and that's pretty similar locations where we have them. Borderline strong storms from time to time, some hail, some wind. But it has that band filling in a bit more by, say, 1:32. I'm going to get that to exactly 2 o'clock there. By that point, again, similar spots where we've been watching, maybe some hail, maybe a little rotation on that one there. That's where, again, that non-zero tornado threat comes in. But more than anything, I think that this is still the batch we're watching in particular back out here into Arkansas. That's the one we really have to keep our eye on. Now, notice by around 2 to 3 o'clock how some of these thunderstorms, let's back this up here for a second. Watch how these are trying there, 1:30 or so, Dumas, Arkansas, toward Cleveland. And watch between 2 and 3, how those really kind of start really blossoming. More fuel for those to work off of at that point in time, kind of peak heating of the day. Some rotation possible on some of these thunderstorms, probably more big hail and gusty winds, but some rotation there. So we'll be tracking at least a limited tornado threat. And then these storms out here in Arkansas, one in the middle, obviously near Crosset there, is one that we're watching a little closer east of El Dorado. That one has a little more rotation than some of the others. But yeah, for folks that were asking, what about Grenada? What about some of these other spots? I don't have a high confidence level, if I'm honest, on the exact positioning here. But this says, hey, if there's enough of a boundary here that we can get enough air coming together, enough lift, that would be one of those storms that could rotate and try to produce tornadoes. We'll look at rotation tracks on that in a minute. This cluster back out here into Arkansas, projections have been pretty clear that at some point, these storms that are individual producing hail and rotation are going to organize. You could see that starting to show up a little bit more by 4:30. Lead storm there at 4:30. We show out here closer to Montgomery County, back out toward Eupora. That's about as heavy as our scale goes. So hail, yep. Gusty winds, yep. Some rotation trying to maybe produce tornadoes, maybe out of that. It does look like it's unwinding a little bit at that point. The other thunderstorms back to the west certainly are getting more organized and starting to form more of a line. I'll say this shows that lead storm now becoming more of the big wind bow echo producer on the latest there. So that's interesting. We'll be able to assess that really in the next 45 minutes to an hour or so, seeing if we're starting to see storms developing out here in the part of Arkansas where we don't really have thunderstorms, where yesterday the cap held, and that kept us from having as many. So today, it's that fool me once, shame on me, fooled me twice. There are a few things that are different. One being that we at least have somewhat of a lifting mechanism from that boundary from the rain-cooled air from overnight storms. Oop. In saying that, my mouse jumped too far ahead there. But this does show that the storm there, the southern storm there near Chula and Vaden, this becomes the big boy, producing the strongest gusty winds there from east to Eupora to Ackerman to the Starkville area, stretching back toward Canton. That's the one that kind of feeds into the most unstable air and just starts picking up speed. And this is that 70, 75 mile per hour producer. Just look how even there between 5:30 and 6 o'clock, how that bow really developed. So very well advertised. Our projections have had this for about 3-4 days now. At least one of these storms, 2 days now. One of these storms producing a big wind event that goes Macon, Aliceville, Philadelphia, DeKalb, Utah, some of those spots there, Demopolis potentially, somewhere in this zone where we have that biggest, strongest wind kind of moving eastward. Now, I'll tell you this, there are some spots along the leading edge of this where there could get a little bit of rotation in there. So tornado threat, again, non-zero, spin-up style tornadoes on that. Mainly it's the forcing of the strong straight line winds as it pushes forward in that 60-plus mile per hour range, 70 mile per hour range. That probably one of the bigger headlines with that. Okay, as we'll just kind of advance that eastward there a little bit beyond that. So most of the storms after that point below severe limits, we have a few down here that we're watching for maybe Yazoo City, Canton, back toward Forest and Philadelphia, perhaps another wave with some strong gusty winds as we look toward around 9 to 10 to 11 o'clock tonight, another one of those bow echoes with strong winds. And most of this behind that, there might be a little hail. There would be no tornado threat with what extended deeper beyond that into the overnight time period. Okay, back over here, we should have an update on this. I saw the update drop behind the scenes. Let's see if it has hit the system. I don't know that it has, but I can at least back here should be able to force my way into looking at the man. Okay, there we are. Okay, so they went moderate risk, so that'd be level 4 out of 5 risk across North Texas, probably for the hail potential on this. Multiple rounds of severe weather will occur parts of the southern plains in the lower Mississippi valleys and Tennessee valleys and southeast. Very large to giant hail, 2 to 4 inches plus, swaths of severe wind damage, and a few tornadoes are possible. First takeaway on that, like I said a moment ago, wind, hail, main factors. When they put and a few tornadoes possible at the end, they're thinking primarily the others. I would agree with that, especially based on the fact of what we looked at a moment ago there. Southern Plains, Lower Mississippi Valley, upgraded portions of North Texas to a moderate risk for what is anticipated to be semi-focused sub-regional corridor or supercells, including very large hail potential, some damaging wind, tornado risk centered on mid-afternoon through early evening. Okay, so complex of storms there. This is the one that, so they're looking at the complex of storms where you see the lightning on this back out there into right there. They're looking at that right now as well. Loosely organized, progress east-northeastward, along Red River, east Oklahoma, Texas borders, yada, yada, yada. Following thermal gradient. So that was where we were talking. Remember, we were talking about that front a minute ago, kind of that zone, that kind of boundary, that temperature change there, following that. Increasing surface development in the Arclimus. This may include supercells as well as possibility upscale growth complex. Other initially elevated storms are expected to continue to increase today from Oklahoma to go through middle risk, but surface-based risk. Warming. Boy, this is okay. There we are. Strongly unstable air mass exists. Southern Plains, Arklatex. That's all Texas. That's all Texas. Additional severe storms are expected as far east as Mississippi and Alabama today. See the mesoscale discussion for short-term details. Secondary round upscale storms possible later on tonight. Okay, great. So they didn't say hardly anything about us. I'm not shocked by that. It's just a landmass thing. If you know, you know. So what they basically said is back here in Texas, it's going to be big, 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 giant hail. Okay, yeah, we kind of already knew that. The tornado risk is secondary to the damaging wind risk. Completely agree with that. I think they're going to keep this largely as it looks for us, the orange where the orange is, etc. It's this fact here, this damaging wind threat, and this is the real reason I'm looking at this. This is what I want to know, the update. I want to know if they're going to keep the blue exactly where they keep it here. Are they going to expand this blue more southeastward like this? That's really my question. How far in here do they expand the blue? The reason the blue matters is this is looking at wind gusts up to 75. This is when we're talking real wind damage, major wind damage issues there on the upscale growth of a complex of thunderstorms. So this is kind of what I'm waiting to see what they update. And I was hoping to see an update from, and just hasn't dropped yet for one reason or another. Man, y'all just give me the new one. Let me check on my phone for something. There's another way I can see this on my phone. I'm gonna just double, triple, quadruple check to make sure they haven't put out the new one on there. Why my phone's on 5G and not Wi-Fi, I couldn't tell you. Give me about 5 seconds here, and I'm going to give up on their site, which is clearly not happy today. Okay, well, whenever that shows up, that shows up. Let's bring up your questions here for a moment. We've done a lot of talkings, and hopefully this has kind of made some sense to some folks on what we're dealing with here. So this is, okay, let's give you some big headlines here for a moment. So we showed you the future radar a second ago. Let's see if how much we agree with this here again. So I would say, again, isolated tornadoes possible. The way I would describe our severe weather threat today, isolated tornadoes are possible out of the strongest of these storms. There we go. That is the updated version. See how I stopped myself for mid-sentence. I want to make sure I was good on this. They, let me go back a graphic here. They did expand the strongest, the destructive wind farther east. Y'all, come on. Put out a new graphic. Okay. So how's my best way to get this in? I'm going to have to type in the long, an address here. So give me a moment to be able to type in a long address. Oh, man. I'm going to email it to myself. Copy. Since they won't get their act together, we're going to have to do it the backward way. Matt. Okay, and now mail. Let's pop that up in a new browser. Let's drag that over to here. Okay. Here's what I was hoping to see, and I wish their main site would update, but at least this did, right? Okay, so what we're looking at here, this is kind of their updated risk for severe weather. Go wider. I'll pop these up maybe individually. This is the one I was wanting to see here. So this is that severe wind risk. And so this is the graphic we were showing a minute ago, and I was asking how far east, and they do a different color on theirs. I have blue on ours, so it kind of stands out as different. But they had the previous high-end damaging risk where you see it there. We're looking at the pattern on this, not the colors. We're ignoring the colors for a moment. This is why I have this as a different graphic, because I think this is confusing. You got too much stuff on one graphic. Anyway, point of the story being, see how the dashes, they have that going now a little bit into Alabama, down through Meridian, and then south of Jackson here and over, where they have that potential, where you see that. That's the same as what this says in the blue here. So let's go ahead and draw that on then based on kind of what we know and where they're putting that peak risk now. And I can say that this, I don't agree with everything they do, but this I do agree with. So they have it somewhere, oh man, somewhere like that. Yeah, somewhere like that. So extending that peak and destructive wind risk a little bit farther east in there. And so what that tells me and why it was worth this giant 5-minute tangent is because this shows me where we're most likely to have, you know, that big complex of storms coming in. And the fact that they expanded it means they have a greater confidence in that complex of thunderstorms existing than what they had earlier, right? That's what the graphic says, because the forecaster kind of goes, no, we need to pull that a little bit farther east. So that's what's kind of going on here. That's the thing I was paying attention to. That's why I took the long tangent. And I apologize for all of you that had to put up ADHD taking a tangent that long there. So severe threats, isolated tornadoes possible. The only thing I would change on this here is I would say on our peak threats, this needs to say some wind gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and make it say that so that we can take the screenshot. And for the folks who are like, Matt just talks too long, can you give me like the big heads up on what that was? Here's the screenshot you'll send them. Give me a moment. So we're going to change it to where on that wind gust description, some gusts over 70 miles per hour. Isolated tornado possible. Some hail in excess of 1.5 inches. Okay, and then isolated tornadoes possible. I think that's good. On the heavy rainfall, I'm going to take heavy rainfall threat there. We're going to go down multiple rounds of heavy rainfall. Some rain, some totals in excess of 4 inches. There we go. Okay, there's your updated graphic that kind of updates all the different stuff here related to this. So plan accordingly. This afternoon, peak time frame for us is going to probably end up being after 2 p.m., probably closer to, say, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. is when we really reach the peak, but really start ramping up 2 o'clock or so and ramping down later on by 9 to 10 to 11 o'clock, especially down, we're talking south of US 82. It's going to probably be, and when I'm talking that, I mean a county or two south of US 82, probably more like 11 o'clock to midnight or so once we get down closer to I-20 for some of our Max South viewers down that direction there. Now, I do see some folks beside me mentioning some schools and things like that. I cannot verify those, though I will say a second ago I just got a question here, from someone. I do tend to get those questions about whether or not schools need to be let out early. My opinion almost always is that there are certain days where maybe we do that. I prefer my kid to stay in school all the way to the end, not just because they'd be running around, but because in many cases the schools that we have around here are some of the safest places for kids to be. So I cannot verify some of those schools there beside me. I will try to do some checking on that here behind the scenes if I can. I'm going to ask some of the folks there. Can you all check on schools? ? I'm live, so I can't do that. Period. I have some folks mentioning that in the chat. Period. We'll have some of them kind of check in on that here in a minute. So I honestly can't answer that for some of those. Some reports that perhaps some area schools letting out a little bit early because of the potential today for active and severe weather and the fact that we'll have more storms a little later on. As I mentioned a moment ago, there is a tornado threat today, but this is my biggest concern is what I'd say the destructive wind threat with this later on today. Okay, so with that in mind, I think it's probably about time for us to kind of try to wrap this up here. We've been on for a couple hours because of severe weather threat. Before we go, weather call is the thing. Like, I know y'all love me, and I'm fairly fast at this, and we usually get on pretty quickly, but this still relies on a human being hitting a bunch of buttons and everything else working for that. And it works out pretty well most of the time. But weather call is designed so that, say, these folks back here in Texas, right, or in Oklahoma, if, I'll put it right behind me here, if they're in that yellow box you see behind me, they get a phone call that says, hey, there's a severe thunderstorm warning for my location here in Broken Bow. In effect, take protective action now. Or if it were a tornado warning, it would call them for that. It's an instantaneous thing. Once the folks at the National Weather Service, draw the box and send the push, the same thing that makes the EAS go off on the TV, the same thing that pushes the alert through the app, pushes a phone call. Okay, but I've got the app. Why do I need the phone thing? You need the phone thing because phones are disruptive, because I put my phone on silent there, and if it started ringing, I would know it. So tornado warnings, it calls you. Tornado confirmed warnings, basically when a tornado has been confirmed to a touchdown, it calls you back for that. When damaging winds or hail are there and they issue a severe thunderstorm warning, it calls you for that. Or major, what we call flash flood emergencies, it'll call you for that as well. So certainly recommend it. It is something that I believe is necessary and important for keeping your family safe. And it's, again, one of those big thresholds of things to keep in mind. Now, for those that are concerned, we do have a shelter list of area storm shelters here across North Mississippi. It's on our Mississippi Live weather app. Appreciate Lee's Storm Shelters for sponsoring that list. These aren't shelters that Lee's has put up. I mean, maybe in some cases they are, but mostly these are community shelters. You're going to want to check with your local community to know whether or not those shelters are open today. Some of them will be, some of them might not be. That's something that still, obviously remains to be seen in individual communities. But you can get, of course, more information on our website. Just look for that Lee's logo, and it looks exactly like that icon there. If you open it up, you scroll down below the radar, and down there, you'll eventually see where it has that storm shelter list. And appreciate our partners there at Lee's storm shelters there for sponsoring us here in Mississippi Live Weather, and for that. for looking at that. But just, be keeping things in mind. And one more thing to kind of keep in mind is before storms happen, we want to make sure that we keep those phones charged. I know you're watching a live stream that's sucking this down fast. You got to make sure it stays charged up. Easy way to kind of get around that also would be if you watched us on our apps on Roku, Fire Stick, and Apple TV. Just search for Mississippi Live, or on YouTube there. You can find us on all those spots there as well. I see some Monroe County folks mentioning Monroe County's getting out early there, somewhere around 1:15, the number that kind of keeps coming through on that there. I have not been able to verify these, but the simple fact that some of these same numbers keep showing up. Itawamba County, same time there as well. Nettleton, about 1:15. I would definitely say double check those. Those folks that have been listed as possibly getting out early. I mentioned, Monroe County, some folks there, Nettleton, and Itawamba County. So we'll be looking at that. And give me just a second here, because I promised Randy I'd always answer it. Hey, so we're live here real quick. What's up? Yeah, I know Grenada was asking the same question there. And honestly, if you don't mind, they've got kids on the road. Where are they going to and from? What time are they coming back? They should probably be. I mean, weird stuff can happen, but I mean, that's about as good a window as you're going to get on a day like today, if we're honest. That's you can do a lot worse than that. So kind of looking at this, and I'll try to answer this for folks at home. And again, I never make the go, no go call on this. But I have a real hard time dismissing early any day, right? There are some high-end days where I feel highly confident that we are for sure going to get tornadoes, that I can get a little more behind it. This is not one of my high confidence days. This is we're kind of waiting, we're kind of watching, this might be sort of day, as opposed to, slam your hand on the table and say, you got to do something about this sort of day. Now, it's 12:16. I'm talking both to you, Randy, and trying to answer your question at the same time I'm talking to folks at home. So if I have a weird tone, that's the reason why. I'm watching there, and I have a really hard time dismissing early today. What time's regular dismissal time? 3:15. What time do buses get off the road? Okay, so is the goal to get them to where they're back? I mean, do you ever run buses early? Yeah, well, and so when you say 3:30 and you say a 2-hour bus route, that says 5 something, right? Oh yeah, I mean, so 3:15, 4:15. I mean, that's now if you said 4:45, like, no, I don't want buses on the road that late, So I mean, if you have to move it up to get a bus off the road before that, I completely understand that. Now if you're asking at 3:15, are you probably able to get out and probably be okay? I think there's a decent chance you do, but that last bus route, taking a $1.45 to get back, that's your issue on the whole thing. Yeah, if you can get those routes, a little better, you're fine. I feel a whole lot better about the situation here, because the odds are, the odds are pretty good that this is damaging winds, and obviously buses, that's where yeah. And I have, I'm looking at the thing right now, and I've got it, over top of you somewhere. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, you could be on the north side of that. That wouldn't at all be shocking. And there's going to be some individual thunderstorms developing ahead. We just did such a poor job of developing them yesterday, and we are not that much different than yesterday. But I'm not saying I don't buy it, but clearly I'm saying I don't buy it. So I'm not high confidence today. I'm not running into this feeling like we're not 3 days after the ice storm where we really knew it was going to happen and we felt good about everything we did here. This is like, I mean, maybe. So, well, hopefully that helps a little bit. Like, and there should be some stuff popping up, and every once in a while it's like, oops, you know. But this is not one of those like 1 or 2 days a year. I'm like, yeah, you absolutely. I'd be making like this is more the like. I mean, you could, if that makes sense. Hey, you're welcome. Y'all be safe. Let me know if you need anything. Okay, bye. That was Randy Skinner, the emergency manager there in Calhoun County. I went ahead and answered it and went ahead and tried to answer it, hopefully in a way that kind of made sense for y'all as well at the same time there. Because again, that's always going to be the question. What about, what about these different locations? The reality in this kind of case or any kind of case we're talking about this is so often the reason why school is canceled or released early is because of schools trying to make decisions on bus routes. So you're good to get out of school at a certain time. But if you have a bus that's on the road an hour and a half after that, that's real problems, right? And so when schools make adjustments, you're like, why would they do that? They're thinking of the bus kids. When schools, don't go back to class after a winter weather situation, like it's fine here in town. They're thinking about the buses. Almost every time that's what it is. It's about the kids busing from point A to point B. So all of that to say, we're going to have more thunderstorms later on, and yeah, clearly the model shows that by 4:30 we've got some issues, but by 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock we're still kind of in the development phase. And listen, this absolutely could verify exactly like this. But man, the model burnt us pretty bad yesterday. So anyway, hopefully that kind of answers that questions there just a little bit. And I agree with Lone Wolf up there saying always better safe than sorry. I don't make the call for these school districts. We've shown them what you're looking at. We've talked to them about different things. And then from there, they go ahead and make their call on what to do and whether or not to do what they need to do. So anyway, hopefully that helps you make your call as well. And appreciate y'all for your support. But the last thing I'll leave you with before we kind of dismiss here, for lack of a better way to put it, is, build your armor, layer it up, make sure you have multiple ways to find out if you're in danger, if severe weather is coming for you. Again, some of the ways to do that, again, weather call, the main way that I recommend. I have it for my family. We get those weather calls when necessary. And by the way, I woke up this morning and I was like, I didn't get a weather call. There's severe thunderstorm warning out for part of Lee County. I looked at it, it's like, I did get a code red. And this is not picking on Code Red, but for whatever reason, Code Red shot me a phone call this morning. I looked at my location, and this is so sad. What I did is I went in the system. I was like, I must have the wrong location in there. And I checked. I'm like, no, I don't. And then I did the obvious dumb weather person thing. I went and looked at the map. I'm like, well, we weren't in it at my house, so of course I didn't get a weather call at my house. So even I make that mistake from time to time as well. And this morning, when I was a little disoriented from being up late last night, that's how I played that. So anyway, waiting to see how much of this fills in back here. We'll be watching things, obviously, but make sure you have those layers of protection and you'll be in good shape. Our next live broadcast is going to be coming up here during at least at the very latest, it will be coming up at 5 o'clock here in the Room to Room Weather Center. I'll bring you updates alongside of our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, with what we're expecting for the remainder of storms. The odds are very good that we end up having active weather before then that causes something we need to pay attention to. And just a second before we go, I do see one thing that I want to analyze further. My wife, who shall remain nameless, just laughed at me in the other room because she knows I'm incapable of being quiet. The only person in the world that didn't need a 24-hour channel. Well, she thought that one was funny. She doesn't usually think I'm funny for real reason when I'm trying. Okay, so see how this is kind of lit up here, northeast of Shreveport there? I want to look at that using a couple of other things, because that could be one of the waves that starts the process and kind of triggers off the more active severe weather. Let's see if we can see it in water vapor. Okay, well, yeah, obviously we got the complex of storms there. That's not what I was hoping to see. Color IR. because we should have kind of a little push on the Jetmax there. You kind of see that extended back into Texas there. So that's probably the nose of something. That could be the thing that kind of kicks off and then builds here toward Greenville and then produces those strong wind gusts down in this zone. So that is kind of the next little batch here that could kind of trigger all the rest of it off. So I just happened to see that right as I was wrapping up. I'll go back over to the regular, Mama Justice Doppler radar. I should have a 5 sweep in here. Hold on. We got the 5 sweep. That's perfect for this. Yeah, 4 sweep. Okay, let's pull that back up here. Yeah, because I should be able to kind of see what they all sort of have on that in the aggregate there. And then I promise I'll be quiet. I'll send you on with your day for at least a little while. Yeah, so that's the batch there. And you can see how I'll click. I can't click that off there, but the lightning strikes are increasing on this as well. So this is going to be kind of the wave that moves out here east and eventually south of Winona, Kosciuszko, Philadelphia, Forest, Jackson could be one of those big bursts of strong wind there. I'm interested to see how far up north toward El Dorado that ends up. El Dorado. It's El Dorado in Kansas. I still don't know how to pronounce it. Let me know in the comments. Y'all are pretty good at that. So that's one that we're going to be watching there going forward. Check all of our discussions with the National Weather Service. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. Well, we do have some of those pictures from earlier from, we mentioned Pea Ridge of some of the hail earlier. I do see some of the pictures in there of some of that from Marion County. Yeah, it looks like a lot of hail. And sometimes that happens where you just get a lot of hail. Look at this. Give me a moment. And then I'm done. I promise this time. So this is that hail completely kind of covering the roadway there near the Pea Ridge community there in Marion County, Alabama, the Volunteer Fire Department with that picture near County Road 42, Marion County Road 42, an intersection there of 37. So a little bit ago. Okay, we'll see you guys tonight, next broadcast at 5 p.m. at the latest. Clearly, I'll probably end up being on before that, so keep it here. And thank you so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
When C.K. Little opened his doors in downtown Corinth nearly 80 years ago, his plan was simple: deliver excellent service and exceed expectations. That's why we say a little gift goes a long way.
Game day brings its ups and downs, celebration and disappointment, anxiety and relief, friends and enemies. You can always argue over who should have won, but everyone can agree